Our scenario describes a horror game where the player must collect items to complete the objective.
The player is dumped into a dark forest with no recognition of how he got there.
The player wanders around the forest and discovers a single piece of a page.
The player must now collect all pieces which might give him evidence of how he got to the forest.
The whole time, the player is being hunted by SlenderMan, a tall, stringy character with no face wearing a tuxedo.
If the player looks at SlenderMan for too long, the screen will begin to static and the player will lose. This forces the player to start over.
Every piece of the page that the player collects, SlenderMan becomes more aggressive, making him more dangerous.
The flashlight that the player is carrying only has a certain amount of battery.
If the player keeps the flashlight on for too long, it will die and the player will be forced to play in the dark.
The player must collect all 8 pieces of the paper without dying to SlenderMan. When all the pages are obtained, the player wins.
Code for our scenario. Once the game is launched, the main menu will appear. The player can either choose to exit or play from this menu. If the player clicks exit, the game will exit. If the player clicks play, the game will start. The game will then check for an input such as the WASD keys. The player will then move forward. The game will then check for collision, which if the player collides with the enemy or SlenderMan, the game is over and it will turn to the main menu. But if the player collides with a page, it will increase the score by 1. The player has to collect 8 pages, so once the score reaches 8, the game is over and the player wins and will return to the main menu.